What's happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. So we got another huge update that you guys can probably already tell that it is going down. Just by that title alone, you guys are definitely gonna want to check this one out, as it looks like that Democratic Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's fight against the Trump administration to deploy federal troops to protect ICE agents in his state has just backfired, as we're now seeing local law enforcement turning their back and rebelling against that Democratic governor, guys. And I'm excited to get to this one, so we're now straight into it. All I ask that you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and without further ado, let's hop straight into it, folks. Check this one out.
Homeland Security says ICE agents were targeted in several vehicle attacks yesterday. DHS shared these photos of ICE vehicles they say were damaged in those assaults. The agency says 2 undocumented immigrants tried to ram and injure officers in Bensenville and Norridge yesterday. Both suspects will remain in custody pending removal proceedings. And DHS released a statement which says in part, quote, "Thankfully, none of our law enforcement was killed because of these deranged criminal attacks on law enforcement. This is exactly what happens when Governor Pritzker, Mayor Johnson, and other sanctuary politicians demonize ICE and encourage illegal aliens to resist."
All right, folks, we got that breaking news headline and a report coming out that a federal agent ended up shooting a woman right outside an ICE detention facility in Chicago. And this comes after she was reported to have a handgun and also was in one of the multiple vehicles that was ramming ICE and Border Patrol agents. And this is another one of those I told you so moments, with that inflammatory rhetoric coming from these loonies on the left finally turning into chaos. This has to be stopped. And then get this, guys, get this. We had dispatch audio actually confirming that Chicago police were ordered by Governor J.B. Pritzker not to assist the federal agents that were cornered in earlier in Chicago. Look at this.
Okay. Any kind of particular hairstyle, just younger male Hispanic on foot wearing all black?
No hairstyle.
Okay, 10-4. And one is for the hit and run. This guy fled from the scene at 37th Place in Kedzie. It all started at I-55 in Kedzie. Then they fled southbound at Kedzie, where that offending vehicle crashed. They ran the federal agent off the road. They fled on foot westbound 37th Place from Kedzie. It was a male Hispanic younger wearing all black clothing. 99.
Yeah, send the cars in that direction. Have them stay put 2 or 3 blocks away, all right? Have them hold tight until I give you further direction, please.
Okay, 10-4. And for the units responding to 39th Place in Kedzie per 999, if you guys can just, for the units responding to 39th Place in Kedzie, if you guys can start heading there as quick as you can, and then just hold tight for instructions with 999.
999.
999.
For the chief of patrol, clear everybody up. We're not responding over there.
Radio check. And again, per the chief of patrol, we have all the units that, per 999, chief of patrol said all units clear out from there. We're not sending anybody over to that location.
Wow, this is absolute craziness that we're seeing playing out by the Democratic leadership over there in Chicago. They would rather see their citizen safety be at jeopardy, at risk, than to comply with the federal orders coming from the big bad orange guy, President Donald Trump. That Trump derangement syndrome is a very alive and real. We also seen that the dispatcher initially, she seemed a little bit taken back by the order, but promptly relayed the message to all responding units. And then it gets even worse as we seen the Broadview mayor of Broadview, Illinois, demanding ICE to go ahead and pack up, take it home.
Go home, leave us alone. You don't have to show up with weapons, parlaying through the city with weapons and in military gear. That's a form of intimidation and fear. And this is America. We should not be afraid to walk down the street. We should not be able to see like it's a war zone or something real bad is happening. That's not here. We can police our own cities and towns and villages.
The mayor of Broadview, Illinois is now calling for ICE agents to pack it up, go home, and leave them alone, stating that they can handle this crisis on their own, clean up the massive crime and illegal migrant crisis that they're currently facing. This is just more of that gaslighting coming from that Democratic leadership over there. When we've got Illinois residents coming out crying for help from the Trump administration, stating that they need to see the troops sent to clean up that crime and immigrant crisis that they're currently facing. We cannot believe it. I'll tell you who else isn't buying it. We got a Border Patrol chief here sending a message over to Governor J.B. Pritzker and all the Democratic leadership over there in the state of Illinois.
So the governor saying that you guys aren't doing anything to make the community safer, what would you say in response to him?
You know, I don't think the governor has ever stepped foot near a trained Aragua member or MS-13 member or any other bad person or bad thing, so he probably wouldn't understand exactly what we're talking about. It might be way over his head. But don't worry, Governor Pritzker, we've got it covered from here, and this is just the beginning. Tonight's just the beginning, and we're going to roll on and on. We are going to turn and burn, Governor. We're going from this one to the next, to the next, to the next, until they quit or are all deported and go home. And as far as him, he can either get on board or watch from the sidelines.
Chief of Border Patrol is exactly right in saying that Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker cannot relate or understand the struggles of everyday American or residents of Illinois because he's never been face to face on the streets with this violent crime, violent criminals, and Trinidad Aragua gang members. And that's because he has 24/7 around the clock security detail protecting not only him, but his family members in that palace that they live in. He then continues on to say that, hey, you can either join aboard this mission to clean up the crime and migrant crisis that they're currently facing, or else watch from the sidelines. But either way, this is going to get done. We're moving full steam ahead, and I'm so excited. I'm glad that we got that type of energy towards Governor J.B. Pritzker and his rebellion. We also had DHS Secretary Kristi Noem telling off Governor Pritzker, saying to grow up. Come live in these communities being terrorized by illegal migrants. It's not cool.
What's your message to J.B. Pritzker?
You know, grow up and come live in some of these communities for 12 hours in some of these neighborhoods that are being victimized by professional terrorists, by cartels, by organized crime. They have to live every day with their neighbors being murdered, their children being raped, and he doesn't live there. He doesn't even go there and talk to them. So that's what I love about President Trump is he gets up every day and thinks about the average American and says, I'm going to defend you just as much as I do anybody else in this country, because that's what America's about.
And that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is such a straight shooter. Really got to enjoy the way that she's always willing to call it straight down the center, no matter which side you're playing for, which team you're on. She's going to call it exactly how she sees it. But I'll tell you what, that Governor J.B. Pritzker doesn't have the guts to drop his 24/7 security detail and live like residents of Illinois lives, because he knows how dangerous it truly is. And then check this one out. We got him actually taking it over to CNN. We had Jake Tapper doing the dirty work, impressing Pritzker on the armed woman shootout with DHS, and then he ended up calling it all propaganda and a figment of our imaginations. Check this out.
DHS says that CBP officers shot and wounded a woman in Chicago yesterday after, they say, she allegedly rammed a law enforcement vehicle, and agents were boxed in by multiple cars. The spokesperson for DHS, Tricia McLaughlin, accused Chicago police of leaving the scene and refusing to assist agents in securing the area. What do you know about this incident? Were federal agents boxed in and assaulted?
Well, we don't have a lot of facts. What happens in these sorts of incidents is typically ICE puts out a press release before anybody else can speak with the press, and then it gets reported on social media and elsewhere. Remember, these are the same folks who killed a person, unarmed person, just a couple of weeks ago in Franklin Park. At first, they said that the officer had been threatened with his life. The reality of it and the truth of it has now come out, and that wasn't the case. They killed somebody. So here, it's really hard to know exactly what the facts are, and they won't let us access the facts. They are just putting out their propaganda, and then we've got to later determine what actually happened.
And can we just take a brief moment to reflect on how big of a joke that J.B. Pritzker is as a governor? This guy would rather push lies and falsehoods and attempt to gaslight the public rather than to address the very real crisis that we're seeing happening in his state. This guy is a complete joke. But he does not stop there. He then continues on in this same interview, insisting that President Trump is making it a war zone, stating that they need to get out of his state.
Let me just say that the secretary doesn't know what she's talking about. She frankly says that people are clapping. They're not. They're booing her on the street, and they're booing ICE and CBP. They're marching, the CBP marching on a beautiful Sunday in Michigan Avenue in downtown Chicago. They're raiding neighborhoods where instead of going after the bad guys, they're just picking up people who are brown and black and then checking their credentials. Are you a U.S. citizen? I don't know about you, but I don't carry around papers that say I'm a U.S. citizen. So you can imagine people are getting detained. They're getting arrested, U.S. citizens. And they did this, of course, when they raided a building in the middle of the night in South Shore. 130 people that were emptied out of this building. They were going after a few gang members, and instead they broke windows, they broke down doors, they ransacked the place, and there were people that were held, elderly people and children zip-tied. Elderly people held for 3 hours at a time. They are the ones that are making it a war zone. They need to get out of Chicago. They need to get the heck out.
Once again, we're seeing that left-wing lunatic, Governor J.B. Pritzker, attempting to put that wedge or divide in between you and your neighbor, stating that President Donald Trump is only targeting individuals that are black and brown. This is absolute outrageous lies that we're seeing from him. And I'll show you why I know these are lies. Check it out, coming from a local Chicago resident on these raids that had said to have zip-tied children and grandmas.
Chicago, you need to stop lying and saying, and people on this internet need to stop lying and saying that they're coming for black people. Yes, there was a building in a black community that was not majority black because it had been overran by illegal gang bangers. Let's be clear. So why everybody want to keep throwing that narrative around half of South Shore is fucking invaded by illegals. That's the truth. So don't get on here saying black people are being came for. They're coming because they're in our neighborhoods and our communities. That's why. So yes, they're going to go in buildings where black people live and sleep because they put them in buildings where black people live and sleep.
And this right here is what I truly hate about these lunatics on the left. They're so quick to tell half of the story, if that, to get their false narrative across. They need to quit with this trying to put that wedge and divide in between us and our neighbor. We know what's truly happening. Residents are sick of it. They've been crying for help, and they're so glad to see someone actually doing something for them, whether that be President Donald Trump or the leadership of their community. But they can see the leaders of their state have failed them and neglected them nonstop. They're just happy to see that there's finally some help arriving. And we got President Trump also speaking, actually going off on J.B. Pritzker, saying that I think he's scared. I think he's nervous to see an actual cleanup of crime in his state.
I really believe he's afraid for his life somehow. When you can have 40 or 50 people killed over the last couple of months, hundreds of people wounded, there's no place like that in the world. Hundreds of people wounded, 50, 55 people shot and killed. And Pritzker gets up and says what a wonderful place it is. They need help. Washington, D.C. is now a safe place. You're not going to get mugged or hit. You're not going to get raped. You're not going to get anything. Washington, D.C. went from a hellhole to a safe place. I love the way you nod. Is it true, though? People, a lot of the people right here were, a lot of the people right here were mugged. Reporters. And you know what? You're safe now. Nothing. We've had no crime. It took 12 days to solve the problem, 12 days. And we're going to do that in Chicago. We're going to do that in Portland. Now, Portland is different. That's a bunch of paid insurrectionists. But you have a lot of paid people in Chicago, too. I believe the politicians are under threat because there's no way somebody can say that things are wonderful in Chicago. There's no city in the world like that. We're going to straighten it out. And I think that Pritzker, he's not a stupid person. I think that Pritzker's afraid for his life.
President Donald Trump doesn't stop there, though. He takes it a step further in saying that J.B. Pritzker needs to call him up because he's going to send the troops whether he likes it or not.
I would love to have Governor Pritzker call me. I'd gain respect for him and say, we do have a problem, and we'd love you to send in the troops because you know what? The people, they have to be protected. I saw today on one of your networks, not a friendly network, except really the opposite, I would say, very unfriendly network. And they interviewed about 12 people on this morning. Most of them were African American, who were black. And they were saying, please, please, please let the president send in. These were people from Chicago. Please, we need help. We need help. We can't walk outside. We're petrified. If the governor of Illinois would call me up, I would love to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway. We have the right to do it because I have an obligation to protect this country. I'm very proud of Washington. It serves as a template, and we're going to do it elsewhere. But Chicago is certainly going to be high. I would love to have him call. I would love the governor of Illinois. I'd be honored to take his call. All he has to do is say, sir, we need help. It's out of control. And everyone knows it is. He's not kidding anyone.
And then get this, folks. This right here is what I was speaking on earlier in this video when I said that rebellion coming from that Democratic leadership over there in the state of Illinois is starting to backfire on them tremendously, as we're now seeing Chicago PD superintendent defending the Fed, stating that if you want to box them in, it is reasonable to believe that they are being ambushed and they need to defend themselves. They're on the side of President Trump and the troops now.
Federal agents, ICE, HSI, are officers. They are agents of law enforcement. If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed and that this could end in a deadly situation. And it's reasonable for them to use force based on those conditions. Do not box in any law enforcement officer. You are breaking the law when you do that. And you are putting yourself in danger. Following law enforcement agents around. The question is why? What do you plan on doing? It's also reasonable for them to believe that you're eventually going to do harm to them. If you ram any vehicle, especially that one that contains law enforcement agents, and that's any law enforcement, local, state, federal, county, you do this intentionally, this is considered deadly force. Deadly force is anything that can cause great bodily harm or death. When you plow into a vehicle that contains law enforcement agents, you're using deadly force. And they can use deadly force in response to stop you. I can understand that there's a lot of emotions out there, but that does not mean that you get to commit a crime. Our responsibilities when it comes to federal agents, and I've been asked these questions, we do not interfere with the duties and responsibilities of federal agents. We don't have to agree with it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to agree with it. We do not interfere with their orders. And when they go out to carry out their orders, they will do that the way that they're trained to do it and their understanding of what it is they have to do.
Yo, there we have it, guys. Oh my goodness. Looks like Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's fight against the Trump administration is now backfiring on him severely. So we're now seeing his own team, guys. Yes, local PD of his state saying they will no longer comply or go through with his orders to stand in the way of federal agents simply doing their job and trying to clean up crime on their streets, clean up the migrant crisis that they're currently facing, something that Democratic leadership in their state has continuously ignored. This thing is not going to end or fare well for Democratic leadership like that Governor J.B. Pritzker if they keep this up, as we're now seeing local PD rebelling against him. You know it's getting bad, and this thing is only going to continue to escalate if they don't stop with the inflammatory rhetoric, guys. But I'll be following any updates to come on this one, guys. Definitely hop in that comment section. Comments are open, and I'm excited to hear what you guys are thinking on this one. Also, make sure you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy more content like this, catch you guys on the next week.